Millionaire Dad was shocked when his quadruplets called the maid Mommy. The sound of 4 tiny voices echoed through the grand marble hallway of a luxurious mansion in Dallas, Texas. The millionaire owner of the house, Michael Carter, froze in place when he heard the words that changed his life forever. His 4-year-old quadruplets came running down the staircase with bright smiles on their faces. They rushed past him and wrapped their little arms around the housemaid standing near the kitchen. Then, in perfect unison, they called her Mommy. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Michael felt his heart sink into his chest. The woman they were hugging was not their mother. She was the quiet maid who had worked in his home for nearly 3 years. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. Michael stood speechless as confusion and disbelief flooded his mind. The children looked genuinely happy, their faces glowing with affection and trust. The maid, whose name was Grace Wilson, looked equally stunned. Tears instantly filled her eyes as she gently held the children. The scene forced Michael to confront a painful truth he had been avoiding for years. Years earlier, Michael had built a business empire from nothing. Through endless hard work, sleepless nights, and relentless determination, he became one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in Texas. He owned luxury properties, expensive cars, and successful companies. Yet despite all his success, his personal life was falling apart. His wife, Rebecca, had struggled after the birth of their quadruplets. Raising 4 babies at once was overwhelming. Michael was constantly traveling for business meetings and corporate events, leaving Rebecca to carry the burden alone. The stress slowly destroyed their marriage. Arguments became common. Loneliness filled every room of their beautiful home. Eventually, Rebecca left. She said she needed to find herself and could no longer handle the pressure of motherhood. One day she packed her belongings and disappeared from their lives. Michael suddenly found himself a single father to 4 infants. At first he tried his best. He hired nannies, assistants, tutors, and childcare experts. Money was never the problem. Time was. His businesses demanded his attention every hour of every day. He convinced himself that providing financial security was enough. But children needed something money could never buy. They needed presence. They needed warmth. They needed love. That was when Grace entered their lives. Grace was a 32-year-old widow from a small town in Oklahoma. Her husband had passed away years earlier after a tragic accident. Since then, she had worked tirelessly to support herself. When she applied for the maid position, she expected to clean rooms and organize the mansion. She never expected to become the emotional center of the household. The quadruplets instantly connected with her. There was Ethan, the thoughtful boy who loved books. Olivia, the energetic girl who never stopped asking questions. Noah, the shy child who often hid behind furniture when strangers visited. And little Hannah, whose smile could brighten even the darkest day. While Michael attended meetings around the country, Grace quietly cared for the children. She prepared breakfast every morning. She bandaged scraped knees. She comforted nightmares. She read bedtime stories. She celebrated birthdays. She attended school performances. She listened when they were scared. Without realizing it, she became the person they depended on most. Years passed. Michael continued believing everything was fine. Whenever he returned home, the children seemed healthy and happy. He assumed his employees and caregivers were simply doing their jobs well. He never stopped to consider who was truly raising his children. Until that shocking morning. The words, "Mommy," echoed inside his mind long after the children ran off to play. For the first time, Michael began paying closer attention. Over the following weeks, he observed things he had never noticed before. Every time one of the children felt upset, they searched for Grace. Every accomplishment they wanted to celebrate was first shared with Grace. Every drawing they created featured Grace standing beside them. One evening, Michael walked past the playroom and overheard laughter. He looked inside and saw Grace sitting on the floor surrounded by the children. They were building a cardboard castle together. The scene looked simple. Yet it contained something missing from Michael's life. Connection. For the first time in years, he realized how much he had missed. That night he sat alone in his office staring at family photographs. The expensive watches on his wrist suddenly felt meaningless. The awards on his shelves seemed empty. He had spent years building companies while unknowingly losing precious moments with his children. A deep sense of guilt settled over him. The following weekend, Michael canceled several important meetings. Instead, he took the Quadruplets to a nearby park. At first the children seemed surprised. Almost uncertain. They treated the outing like a rare event. Watching their reactions broke his heart. He realized they had grown accustomed to his absence. Over the next several months, Michael began making changes. He reduced his travel schedule. He delegated responsibilities. He started attending school events. He ate dinner with his children every evening. Slowly, the distance between them began to shrink. Yet something still troubled him. One afternoon he decided to ask the children a question. As they sat together in the backyard, he gently asked why they called Grace Mommy. The children exchanged innocent glances. Then Ethan answered. He explained that Grace was always there when they needed someone. She hugged them when they cried. She celebrated their successes. She listened to their fears. She made them feel safe. To them, Mommy wasn't a title. It was a feeling. The answer struck Michael harder than any business failure ever had. That night he couldn't sleep. He replayed every missed birthday, every cancelled family outing, every broken promise. The next morning he found Grace organizing books in the library. For several moments neither spoke. Finally Michael thanked her. Grace appeared uncomfortable. She insisted she had only been doing her job. But Michael knew the truth. No employee description could explain the love and devotion she had given his children. Then Grace revealed something unexpected. She admitted she had been considering leaving. A family member in another state had offered her a new opportunity. Michael felt panic rise inside him. The thought of losing Grace terrified him, not only for the children but for himself. She had become part of their family. For days Michael struggled with what to do. He knew he couldn't ask her to sacrifice her future. But he also couldn't imagine the household without her presence. The situation became even more emotional when the children learned Grace might leave. Their reactions were heartbreaking. Olivia cried herself to sleep. Noah became unusually quiet. Hannah refused to eat dinner. Ethan spent hours staring out the window. For the first time, Michael fully understood how deeply they loved her. And how deeply she loved them. Several weeks later, Grace announced her decision. She had chosen to stay. Not because of the salary. Not because of the mansion. But because she couldn't bear leaving the children she had come to love as her own. Tears filled Michael's eyes when he heard the news. Something extraordinary happened after that. The family dynamic transformed. Michael no longer viewed Grace as simply an employee. She became a trusted member of the household. The children continued calling her Mommy Grace, while also growing closer to their father. Instead of feeling threatened, Michael finally understood. Love was not limited. There was enough room in their hearts for everyone who genuinely cared. Years passed. The Quadruplets grew into kind, successful teenagers. They excelled in school and remained incredibly close to one another. More importantly, they never forgot the woman who had stood beside them during their most vulnerable years. One summer evening, the family gathered in the backyard for a celebration. Grace was turning 45. As everyone sat beneath strings of glowing lights, Michael stood to give a speech. His voice trembled with emotion. He thanked Grace for teaching him the true meaning of family. He admitted that wealth had once blinded him to what mattered most. But her kindness had helped save not only his children but also him. The guests wiped away tears as he spoke. Then came a surprise. Michael handed Grace a small box. Inside was a beautiful necklace engraved with 4 tiny hearts and one larger heart connecting them all. The symbolism was clear. The 4 hearts represented the Quadruplets. The larger heart represented Grace. By then there wasn't a dry eye in the backyard. Before we reach the ending, please leave a comment with the words, "Love makes a family," if you believe family is built by care, sacrifice, and kindness. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the Texas horizon, Michael looked around at the people he loved most. He finally understood that success wasn't measured by bank accounts or business deals. It was measured by moments. By hugs. By laughter. By showing up when someone needed you. The day his children called the maid Mommy had once shocked him. Now it felt like the greatest gift he had ever received. It forced him to open his eyes and become the father he should have been all along. And it reminded everyone around him that sometimes the people who change our lives the most are not the ones connected by blood, but the ones connected by love. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these emotional stories alive and allows more people to experience the power of kindness, compassion, and second chances. Because in the end, love is what truly makes a family.